Sports games. I'm kind of talking about board games. I'm not gonna shout. Today I'm talking about sleeves, and I'll talk about how these things may not be something that you want to use, because if you do, then you may lose the time and the money and environmental, stuff, like, and ultimately it's just a waste. And so just leave all your cards. Seems that's what I'm talking about. Sleeving cards games. And it's gone the shout. Hello and good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are. This is Bessie Beats and Reaper Blether, episode 485. And whilst it's not always super brief, whether the conversation ends up being 10 minutes or 20 minutes or 40 minutes, it's all good. And today I just want to talk about sleeving cards. So yeah, this was inspired by a conversation yesterday where on a Facebook group where someone was asking, hey, I got these free sleeves with this game. And my response to that was, well, it's nice that the publisher gave you free sleeves, that's fantastic, but, do you really need them? Like, is it just a bunch of environmental waste? Because the plastic from the sleeves and, the plastic from the sleeves, like, we need to be really careful about this, because that can turn a fairly benign game, something that's just, trees, potentially, something that can be grown in an environmentally conscious way. If it's FSC approved, then brilliant. There is almost no downside to that thing being created. The carbon that comes from the transportation, that can be offset. But the plastic of a sleeve, that's a completely different matter. And that's what makes me think that we have to... Look, someone mentioned deduction games. Someone mentioned cards being marked. Sure, if you're playing in a bind, it doesn't really matter if you know what the next card coming up is. But in a game where you're bidding blind, where you're guessing what your opponents might have played, where, let's say we're playing poker, or let's say we're playing a game of Resistance, Avalon, any of these things, where it's super important that you don't know what's going on in the other people's hands. So therefore, it makes sense to sleeve the cards, right? Well, not necessarily. Because buy the sleeves, get the sleeves, but how many times do you need to play it before the cards actually get marked? Do you need to play it 10 times? 50 times? 100 times? Are you actually going to play it that many times? And once you do, once it does become marked, then you can just put on opaque sleeves at that point and just say, okay, this is a game that I've played enough, because the alternative is, let's be honest, as much as I might love the idea of every copy of a game that I've made being a heritage item, and in 100 years there'll be all these copies of In a Bind and a game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify them and Kitty Cataclysm and all You know, most of those games are not going to survive. That's the truth. In 100, in 200 years, most of these games are not going to be around. So then the question becomes, what do we do from the perspective of making sure that this game, which it is going to be thrown away at some point, does as little damage to the environment as possible? And to that, I suggest think before you sleep. That's ultimately what I'm saying. Please think before you sleep. If you have any thoughts about sleeving, then please go ahead. Otherwise, yeah, obviously, as I said at the start, it takes time, it takes money, but also it has an environmental impact. There is definitely something to be said for expensive cards like Magic the Gathering. There's a resale value if these cards are super expensive. Like, if I'm drafting, then no, I'm not going to bother sleeving. If I'm sure there might be like one rare card, but who really cares? But yeah, let's talk about the fact that having that touch, like touching wood, touching paper, it's just more grounding for humans. It feels better on your fingertips compared to plastic. Let's talk about the fact that by sleeving, you're kind of getting rid of parts of what the publisher has done for that game. Like, I would say that rather than offering you free sleeves, the publisher should just make sure that the cards are good quality, linen finish, black core, 300 grams square meter, and just make sure that the cards are fit for purpose. Because sure, a game about quickly grabbing creatures and trying to identify them after someone makes noises, sure, they might be marked, something might happen, but that doesn't matter if some of the cards become marked, frankly. A game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify them after someone makes noises, that's a game that's pretty resilient, as long as the 7 cards, if those 7 cards become marked, then grab another 7 sleeves from something else if it really becomes an issue, or you could just do it under the table. But yeah, those are my points on sleeves. And hello, Jess, it is lovely to see you. I see that, well, I hope you enjoy your date. That does sound fantastic. And yes, I am in the park, which you're calling my garden for some reason. Do you have any thoughts on sleeves? Have you ever put cards that you bought from a cards game into sleeves? Is that something that you've done? Is it, yeah, is it, oh, yeah, I'm not going to respond to that, but have you put things into sleeves? Have you bought plastic sleeves to put your cards into? That's what I'm interested in. Let's take a step back and talk about recent highlights. Recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights. Recent highlights, playing games and other delights. Recent highlights. So, yesterday I wasn't feeling great, but I did play a couple of games and I definitely had some recent highlights. One of my highlights was that Paredo asked me to join them for a gaming evening, which was lovely on Board Game Arena. And I saw the message a couple of hours late, but they were still going, so I joined them firstly for a game of Coloretto and secondly for a game of 99. For those who don't know, Coloretto is a fantastic game. It gets double thumbs up from me. Coloretto, you play a card or you take a pile. When you play a card and add it to a pile, you're making that pile better. You want it to be something that you want, but the other people don't want. And then you're collecting cards. When you collect cards, the 3 that you've got the most of, they score positive. All the other colours, they score negative. So along the game, you will be having different desires. You'll be trying to go for different colours than your opponents. So you're trying to make these groups of cards things that you want, but they don't want, and it's got that tension, it's got that, oh, I really want that, will they take it, will they not take it? yourself. It's got that trying to stay out of other people's way. It's got that tension. It's got the when do you commit to your colours. It's got so much going on. Coloretto, definitely worth playing. 99, which was a trick-taking game, had a lovely mechanism of you use the cards in your hand to bid on how many tricks you will take. And you get a massive bonus only if you make that many tricks exactly. This is really fascinating because you might have a brilliant hand, but then in order to, you always bid 3 cards and the suits are worth 0, 1, 2, and 3. And so you might want to say, okay, I will bid that I'm going to take 5 tricks this turn. But can you make cards? And then there's also the opposite desire of trying to use that bid to void yourself in something, or potentially you might want to go 0 and give yourself a rubbish hand. And that bidding is really, really interesting. Thumbs up for me. Check it out. Also a board game arena. Jess says, back to the main topic. Maybe with those cards that Jess used to collect at primary school, like Pogs, but Jess wouldn't now. We need to not use too much plastic. Yes, 100%. I agree. Jess had a great massage done. Oh, lovely. And got the nails done. Hands and feet in gel for a tenner. Amazing. Yellow fingers and blue toes. Those are not the colours I would have chosen, but I'm sure it looks great. After 11 years of friendship, I'm going off Jess's joke, says Jess. That might or might not be true. Regardless, talking back to the highlights. Yes, so Coloretto and 99 wonderful things. And when I think of the achievements, the fact that I went out here to kind of have a wander around the park while I was streaming, I cleaned a tiny bit, I put someone else's food into the fridge and told them about it, and I sent some messages that I had to. The highlights were the board game arena games that I talked about. The prawn curry was fantastic. I love it. A warm bed, and people are continuing to buy a game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify them after someone makes noises. On Big to Cock, the Facebook group, people were talking about how much they enjoyed it, and then a few people, like I had pre-orders. It's not like the continuation number of orders isn't enough to be an income, if I'm being honest. It's going to probably be like 3 or 4 a week, which is certainly better than none a week. But at the same time, I do, I do need to think about, okay, how can I advertise this better? Because people are clearly excited about this, and maybe I just need to get more people onto my mailing list, remind people that, hey, this is something they can buy, and sort out the international shipments. That would be a good thing. And so, yeah, that's stuff for later on. But that is my recent highlights. Questionably quick questions is the next section. It's not an interrogation, it's just a questionably quick questions section. Jess asks, what colour of nails would you have chosen? I mean, is it not fairly obvious? Red, probably. Jess says, I'll take you to my nail people when you arrive, and we'll get massages and get some hair done. And go for dinner. Oh, okay. I mean, where will we go for dinner? But that sounds lovely. And yes, indeed. So, if you have any other questionably quick questions, then please ask me right now. Otherwise, I'm going to talk about a brilliant thing. What's a little thing which is brilliant? I'm going to talk about birds. I see a bird. I don't think you'll be able to see it if I spin the camera because it's too far away. But, oh, there's a magpie. Can you... No... Yeah, it's kind of flying in those trees. I don't know if you can see it. But yes, birds populating the sky. It's like we've got stuff on land and then stuff on air and then stuff under the sea. Roughly speaking, the three domains, and I think that's just pretty gosh darn brilliant. And I think it's lovely to think about. Sure, sure they don't actually sleep in the sky. It's a birch and a tree or whatever. But I think that is pretty awesome. Just says a brilliant thing is hair dye. I agree with that. I would like my hair to be done in red before dragon meat, but it says a bit messy here. I'm sure that I would get stuff done given it was half the price. Quick question from Jess. Do you like Yorkshire pudding? I do like Yorkshire pudding, but I'd like it. It depends on the Yorkshire pudding. I like it to have a thickness. I don't like one of these rubbish frozen ones where it's kind of a thin thing and it's just the merest suggestion of pastry. That's not good. I want a big, thick, chunky thing to get my teeth into, like the crispness on the edge with the softness and the gooiness of the dough inside. I want that contrast. It's kind of like a roast potato. It's really, yes, the outside, the crispiness is what's important, but you need to have the, like, juiciness, the freshness, the heat, everything going on. And so that is my opinion on Yorkshire puddings. Just as another question, I'll try to play Yogi on my date. Can two people play? Well, on the box, it says 3 to 10, I think. But I will say that, look, with 2 players, it's not as much fun. You don't get the, oh, I lost, therefore I sit out for a moment and then I watch 2 people. But with 2 people, basically, it's one of those games where if you both have an amount of energy, then it will work fine. So yes, you can play it with 2. It's not perfect, and it's not a game that I would suggest if you're buying it and you're only ever playing games with 2. I don't think you should buy it because it's not best with 2. And if anything, I would have probably put like 3 to 8 on the box myself now. But I think that, yeah, it's worth giving it a go. It's like, play it once, maybe play it a second time, and it'll be like 5-10 minutes of fun, I hope. But thank you for those questions, and let's get back to the main topic, I guess. Okay, so back to the main topic. Yeah, I don't really think I have anything more to say. I just feel like so many people are so protective about everything. Do you know what I mean? Like, I get it. This stuff costs money. I want to protect my stuff. I want to enjoy my stuff. I want to be able to enjoy my stuff for years and years and years. And there are some games like Codex. When I play Codex, I am either going to sleeve it first or make sure that I only play it with people that I really trust. And sleeving, it means that you maybe have to be a bit less concerned about the people that you're playing with. Because if you've got sleeves and someone's, oh my gosh, they touched a bit of food and then they didn't wipe their hand quite perfectly enough. Like, look, if I don't have that sleeved and then someone eats crisps and then wipes their hands on a napkin and then picks up the cards, I will be bothered by that. But if it's in sleeves, then I won't be bothered by that. And that is a thing. And so, yeah, there are certain games where it's like, this just costs so much that I'm not willing, I can't afford for it to be isn't perfect. Does that mean that I'm thinking about the resale value? Does that mean that I'm overly protective of, the quality, the material quality of the game? I don't know. But I just think that it's important for us to kind of take a look at ourselves and think about why we're putting things into sleeves. Stream Elements reminds me that it's stretching time, and I am stretching. Oh, stretching. Oh, stretching. Whoa, stretching. Whoa, stretching. Yes. It doesn't really apply when I'm not inside on the chair. But, yeah, it just. I mean, you could apply that same thing to boxes. People are so protective about boxes, and I get it. With a board game, it's not like an iron. That's the thing. Like when you get something posted to you, if it's an iron, if it's a I'm trying toaster, then who cares about the box? You'll probably throw that away. But with a board game, the box is part of the product. So yes, if someone ships it and then the box gets damaged, I understand why people get upset about that. Because the box isn't just here's how you get the thing, the box is also this is a permanent storage solution. You keep the things in this box, and this box is going to um, house the things, and I might have some graphics that are designed to be pretty, and it might have something that's like an insert that's designed to be usable. And hello Yoda, I'm talking about sleeving. Do you sleeve? Because do you sleeve your cards? What do you think about that whole thing? Because yeah, it's just something that I'm not saying don't sleeve. I understand there are reasons to sleeve. I understand there's reasons to be protective about your stuff. I'm just saying, think about why. Think about why. I mean, in 50 years, will it matter? Will it matter whether this one card has a bit of, finger grease on it? Will that matter? And sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes, if it's like a Magic the Gathering card, as I mentioned before, or something super expensive, then sure. But and sometimes we are like super protective and like, oh my gosh, this has like this tiny smidgen of finger grease. But then sometimes look at yourself and think about why. Why is that an issue for you? Yeah, I don't really have much more to say, but hopefully it's given you something to think about. Will it matter when we've destroyed the planet? That's the thing. Like, yeah, that's a really good point. Like, in 50 years, let's imagine, like, let's say in 70 years, whatever, there's rising tides and we're starting to flood things. Like, do you care about, will it matter? Or will you think, oh, maybe I shouldn't have sleeved all those games that I bought? Because, yeah, with a board gamer, if you're buying multiple games a month and then you're sleeving them all, that is a lot of environmental impact. And if by talking right now I can persuade like 5 people who are, yeah, like a ripple effect, let's say that you then go on to inspire more people, and there's a bunch of people all sleeving so many games per year, this does kind of add up. And yes, I don't want to say you are doing stuff, therefore it's all good. We do have to lobby our governments, we have to lobby people, we have to make sure that, you know, governments and corporations are doing things in a more meaningful and more environmentally conscious way. But we do have to take a little bit of social, personal responsibility as well. Right. For now, let's move on and let's say it's over to you. What are you up to? You can share, but only if you want to. Over to you. Where's my banner? Sorry about this. Over to you. What are you up to? You can share, but only if you want to. So, are you doing something fun and frivolous, or something super serious, or something that you want to share, or something? If you don't care, then you don't have to share, of course. But because I do care, and that's what I want to say. Because I'm interested to know what you're up to. Like Yoda, Jess, anyone else watching. Like if you're watching after the fact, What is a highlight for you? What are you excited about? What are you passionate about? What are you looking forward to? And also, do you have anything that you would like to say about sleeving? What is the last game that you sleeved? Do you sleeve most of your games? When I think about what's the last, I've probably, since I started using blank white cards for prototyping as opposed to paper and sleeves, and I'm aware that that's a bit less environmentally conscious, but since then I haven't sleeved anything. Um, Actually, I do have a bunch of sleeves for prototypes, and I did reuse them, or rather, I got Krys to reuse them earlier this year when I was getting something made in little bits of paper that actually had to be printed. But yeah, other than that, that's my opinion. Let's hear it from you. What am I up to? I am going to, after this, have a bit more of a walk. I'm going to wander, maybe listen to a podcast, maybe sit down on the exercise machines in the park and push my arms around, and maybe even put some things into boxes in my room so it's all ready for when the any van comes up on Thursday and ready to move all my stuff. That is what I'm up to. Um, yeah, that I did upload a whole bunch of photos to Kickstarter last night, and like a bit of mindless click, make the thing, click, make the thing. And I am going to write a Kickstarter update maybe tonight for both my ongoing projects. For a game about wee whimsical creatures, I'll basically just be saying, hey, everything's been sent out. If you're one of the 20 people whose stuff hasn't been sent out, then you need to sort it out with me. And for Categorical, I will say sorry. It's not been, yeah, communication hasn't been great with the Polish people, and here's a free game to say sorry about that. Jess says, Jess is styling the hair and just cuts the fringe. Well, I hope that I'm sure you look fantastic, and lots of love. So, for now, I guess, unless anyone else has anything more to say, I have been Bez, and we have talked about, yeah, recap and wrap up before we finish up. We talked about, yeah, sleeves. There's an environmental impact. You're wasting resources. You're wasting your time and money. But, like, think about the resources and then think about the tactile quality. Think about how touching paper, touching cards is just a nicer feeling. Think about how try to consider something that's been used as kind of more of a heritage, like it builds a story. There's something going on with it. And the idea that a book has a life, that there's been fingerprints, that there are little notes in the margin, that is part of the joy of a physical book, as opposed to something perfectly preserved. And so if we could try to become less perfectionist, and I think that's a general thing. When you get a box that's got a little crease in it, don't be asking for a replacement box. If you've got one view, like if it's meant to have 10 cows and 10 pigs and 10 sheep, and you've got like 11 of one and 9 of the other, does it actually affect the game? Because if it affects the game, then fair enough, ask the publisher or whoever for an extra animal. But if it doesn't affect the game, it doesn't need to be perfect. And I know some games nowadays say about blah, like about 20 cubes of each color or something like that, so it makes it more obvious. But don't try to not feel like it has to be perfect, because the more we send things back, replace things, it's not good. Let's focus on, rather than sleeving and embalming everything in plastic, let's focus a little bit more on fixing things, putting sellotape onto things after the fact. And yeah, obviously, library stuff is slightly different. For now, that is the recap. We also talked about Jess's styling and date, and I hope it goes well. And a couple of games, Coloretto, which was good, and 99, which was quality, and just getting stuff done and tiny bits of cleaning. For now, of course, I am still Bez. I am Stuff by Bez everywhere. I am streaming every day at 10 a.m. UK time. Next Tuesday and Wednesday, I have special guests on, so please do come on for those shows. Tuesday, I am going to be with Tanya Floker. We will be talking about RPGs that do not have dice. On Wednesday, I will be having Tim Fowers, who made some word games and also burger borders and also, yeah, some digital games. Share, spread the word, and thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this. For now, there is really only one thing left to say, and that is lots of love. Bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, 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 bye. This is goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, bye, Jess. Love you too. Bye, bye. Bye, bye, everyone. Bye, bye.